Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets with Tim McMaster, Zack Rosenblatt, and Marissa Dunn.
Can't wait!
3 days after a Monday Night Football game that Jets fans will never forget, we are continuing to talk about the fallout of the Aaron Rodgers injury. Also looking ahead to Sunday as well. The NFL season goes on. The Jets headed to Dallas to take on the Cowboys on Sunday. We'll get into that. I'm Tim McMaster along with our Jets reporter at The Athletic, Zack Rosenblatt, and we are excited to be joined by The Athletic's new senior NFL insider, Dianna Russini. She's going to join us for the top of the show to talk about this Rodgers stuff. Please subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching us, give us the thumbs up. Give us a great review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening, if you're consuming the podcast that way. All right, lots to get to. Dianna, I know we have you for a little stretch here at the beginning, so we want to dive right in. But first of all, welcome to the team. We're so excited to have you here at The Athletic.
Guys, you didn't even give me a warm-up lap. I started this job, and boom, the biggest story in sports happens. Yeah. You know, I thought we would have a little bit of a runway here to get going, but man, you guys threw me right in the fire. So here we go. And look, we were there on Monday night, and I have to tell you, I've covered a lot of big sports stories over the years. I've covered a lot of news stories in my 20 years as a reporter, and I will say that it will be one of those nights where I will recall as I got to be there and cover it and share that story with so many people and our readers and listeners, but it will always stick out, the emotions, the roller coaster that it was for, you know, you could feel it in the stadium, and then of course in the locker room after the game, and really since this is a team that is still coping, and while I know this is not a death, and Robert Saleh said this is not, you know, there's no obituary on this team, there is a little bit of a mourning period that's going on in New York.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm in New York too, Zack. The three of us all live around here, and I think you can feel it when you're walking around. You can tell the Jets fans from actually, I shouldn't say that. The Giants fans have the same expression on their faces after.
I was gonna say as of like a month ago, before Dianna was hired here, I don't know if we'd really spoken much, and now I think we're texting and talking to each other constantly because there's just been so much that's been happening with the Jets. So
our relationship is like full speed ahead.
Yeah, it's like I've known you forever at this point.
I really, you're one of my best friends, which is so weird.
So Aaron did that for us, I guess. He brought us together.
Thank you, Aaron, for bringing us together. So yeah, no, this has been fantastic, and obviously I think everyone is dissecting those moments and is really taking a look at everything from the start to really where we're at now. And you know, one thing, guys, that I feel like the people at home didn't get to really see that we saw in person, because I know ESPN didn't really air much of it, was the incredible introductions that came along with when, you know, we've seen clips now. I think people on social media have seen the videos. But that was an electric scene for people that have all covered Super Bowls before. I have never, ever seen anything like that in terms of the introductions on a Monday Night Football game on an opening weekend or an opening night for a team. And I think that drama really fueled into what we wound up seeing.
Yeah, it was the high and then the low so close together, and it led to, we saw the amazing how many people were watching the game and all of that as well. You guys just talked about how close you've become, so I wanted to bring that up. You have another story with both of your bylines on it this morning, getting more into the cut blocks. And I know some people are already saying, like, I'm sick of hearing about these cut blocks, but I mean, when something like this happens, you want to know everything and why and the reasoning behind it. And that story included some reporting from Matt Schneidman here at The Athletic too, because he's in Green Bay, obviously. He talked to Bakhtiari about that stuff. But Zack, I don't know if you want to start just about this whole thing and the fact that Rodgers it seems like it's like his least favorite thing from an offensive line standpoint. And it happened on the worst play of maybe his career.
Yeah. I should say, I think people are misinterpreting why we're writing it as like we're trying to like scapegoat or something. I think we're just trying to give like the full breadth of like what happened. And part of that is that they ran a play that Rodgers does not like and that he's historically not liked. And on that play, he got injured. And so it was kind of like, you know, if you look at it, when you're watching a game, when a guy cut blocks, it looks like he's literally just falling. And I think that happened a few plays earlier with Mekhi Becton. And then again with Dwayne. The Dwayne one was even worse, obviously. And so in the moment, everybody's like, what is Dwayne Brown doing? And so we decided we wanted to try and figure out exactly why they did that, why the Jets like calling that, why Rodgers doesn't like those. And, you know, with the disclaimer that like nobody actually thinks this is why the injury happened. But yeah, I think that was our goal here. And I think we did a pretty good job of explaining it, even if everybody looks at the headline or whatever and gets mad, because that's just how things go. But
yeah, I think people are just emotional about it. Nobody, you know, I feel like there's part of the fan base right now that wants to blame people because it makes you feel better, right? Because you can say this is the reason, but in reality, injuries happen and we see it all the time, and there's nothing specific that made this happen. But I think what made this interesting and why we dug on it was because so much of what this Jets organization has done has allowed Aaron to do what he wants. They have shaped everything in the building to make sure he was happy and to allow him to be as comfortable as possible. So here we have a situation and a protection that we have now been able to uncover that he's never liked. Going back to his days in Green Bay, and David Bakhtiari really probably was the strength of our piece because he shared that view as someone with so much experience in knowing on what Aaron prefers, and a normal protection is really what he would like, so he can have that time to extend the play. So I think that all made it really interesting, knowing how much effort's been put into making Aaron comfortable, yet first night, first 4 plays, we're seeing protections he doesn't prefer. But that in mind, Zach, I do think it's important to share. Aaron signs off on all this, right? They meet before the game. They come up with they're having constant conversations about how this is going to look right out of the gate. So he obviously had to be okay with this for them to do this.
Yeah, and just to even add on to that, like, he knew, it's not like he didn't know those blocks were coming and he held on to the ball a little too long, you could argue technically. I think that's kind of what Saleh alluded to after the game. Like, he doesn't, so the reason why he doesn't like those is because Aaron famously likes to be able to improvise in the moment and, change things at the line and, find guys, backyard football, find guys after the route has died and all that stuff. And those plays, you have to get rid of it right away, no matter what. Otherwise the guy's coming right at you, because a cut block, the idea is the guy cuts at the defensive end. It like brings him down a little bit. It clears like a pathway, like in Aaron's eyesight to like the receiver, and you can get rid of the ball quickly. But then the defensive end is going to get up and go pretty quickly after that, which is why you have to throw it within 3 steps or whatever. And
it's got to be like that.
And so he didn't throw it that way. We haven't been able to talk to him yet. I don't know if or when we ever will. He'll probably address it at some point on McAfee, I imagine. But we don't know what his thought process was in that moment. But ultimately, it was. Some people, I think some players, they haven't directly blamed it, but some players think the injury happened because of the turf. I think Saleh kind of said that is not why he thinks it happened. Like, it's a freak injury from a 39-year-old player who, was probably more liable to get hurt than most quarterbacks anyway. So it was a freak incident, but this is all that happened in that moment, and maybe would have happened 10 plays later on a play that wasn't a cut block. It's not like he was never going to get hit. If they didn't cut block. But
and the turf angle is always interesting when we're talking about MetLife, and it was really hard for us in that locker room to find anyone on the Jets side, and even our reporters over in the Bills locker room that night. Very few guys were like, yeah, I don't really care. If anything, my takeaway was, okay, choice A is grass, choice B is the turf now is better than the turf last year. Right. So at least there's been some improvement there. And Breece Hall, who, I was not expecting for him to have such a highly productive night. I'm interested in really finding out a little bit more about that as well, of what, the game plan for him. I was unaware that it was going to be as heavy as it was. But he summed it up the best. I mean, he's just like, he didn't even want to get into it with me when I asked him about it. It was essentially like, my answer to you is grass. I don't want turf. I want grass. Grass. You know, he was really funny about when he was talking about it with me. And Dalvin Cook was standing about, you know, a foot away from us. And Dalvin was actually pushing back a little bit. He's like, yeah, man, but, you know, like, turf's not bad. I played on turf all those years in Minnesota. You know, you sometimes, you know, it's really soft. And Bruce was like, just shaking his head. Like, nope. And Dalvin had a little bit of that veteran attitude, though. You know, he was just like, yeah, but and I also think that's Dalvin knowing that it's probably not going to change.
Yeah, Connor McGovern actually yesterday in the locker room, he spoke at the podium. He had a like really scientific long answer about why he prefers grass to turf, and he was saying about how like if you're like your foot gets stuck in grass, then it's just going to create a divot and like there's gonna be grass that comes up. But when like if you get like jammed up on the turf, like that's when like injuries happen. And he was like really getting into. He's like, I'm not trying not to be like too technical. Then he talked for like 10 minutes like about it. It was pretty impressive actually. But
because I do think it's one of those things where they talk about it more than
totally.
we have conversations about it where they, you know, like one player would be like, you should see our text exchange. Is like you should have her text about this.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of crazy. Like it feels like we're having deja vu because if this conversation keeps happening like every year when there's a big injury at MetLife, it's like then
Breece Hall.
Yeah, Breece Hall. I mean, and last year, The Athletic, we all were told to like interview guys in every locker room to get quotes about this. I imagine we're gonna have to do that again because there's still stadiums that have turf, obviously. So, and another point that Connor McGovern made about MetLife, which I guess should be said, is that they have more concerts there than almost any stadium. So they had like 2 concerts Friday, concert Saturday, Giants Sunday, Jets Monday. So technically that might not be possible to do grass in that scenario. So
yeah, I had a different organization share with me that as well. Of like sometimes you have to look at what that stadium's being used for outside. Like we have to kind of take our football glasses off and realize that these venues are being used for other things outside the teams that we're covering. So I don't see MetLife having plans to change. I haven't heard of anything just yet. But as we know with everything, you know, you get enough voices and look, after seeing somebody like Aaron Rodgers go down, and look, we don't know if that's it. You have to wonder if maybe the Maras and the Johnsons are thinking, hey, maybe this is something we consider. We'll see.
Yeah.
And from a fan standpoint, we should be happy the stadiums are being used for all these different things because I mean, off topic, but you build these stadiums for billions of dollars. And if they only get used 8 times a year, 16 in the case of the Giants and Jets.
If Taylor Swift wasn't at MetLife, I wouldn't have been able to go probably. So
there you go. I want to just move this forward a little bit to this week. Tim Boyle's the backup for Zach Wilson. Everybody in the organization has said all the right things about that. Robert Saleh confident in both guys, but it still seems like an addition is coming. Dianna, do you have any, latest on, I mean, Zack put out a story with 19 options, I think. Do you have any thoughts on the realistic options that this team could add?
Yeah, the lists that are going around right now that I'm seeing from Ben Roethlisberger to Matt Ryan, I know the Jets have crossed off a lot of those names. I don't think we're going to see a name that's going to make us go, ooh, we got competition. I do think it's going to be a pretty underwhelming decision when they make our choice, when they do decide to do this, from what I can gather. And these were just conversations I had yesterday. And obviously, sometimes things change, but this was yesterday. It was more, they do feel really good about Zack. They're going all in. I do believe Sunday is going to tell us a lot, though. We're going to be able to figure out what the next play here. But for now, I think they're really just hoping that they believe Zack is the best option. And when you dig in on it and you start to understand why Zack is the best choice in terms of the comfort of this offense, and Nathaniel Hackett and Todd Downing, who I really believe Todd Downing is going to be a bit of the secret piece of this that a lot of people aren't thinking. They're just thinking Nathaniel Hackett is going from one Wilson to the next here, and this transition may not be great. But I think that Todd Downing has incredible ability to help and teach. And this is just because I've had years covering him when he was with the Titans. And Todd got a lot of scrutiny down there, don't get me wrong. But there were things that players would share with me about just his coaching style that worked and his intelligence. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But the big story. Tom Brady is not an option.
Yeah, as I tweeted last night, Jets fans can go back to hating Tom Brady now that he's not coming. So,
exactly.
But yeah, to your point about Todd Downing's going, because I've heard that he's made like a huge impact even when Aaron Rodgers was the guy. Aaron would like listen to him and his teaching methods. He's like very positive in a different way than Nathaniel Hackett, who I think is very like high energy and like it's a whole different vibe. But I will say like one of the challenges for them adding a quarterback, when the season's already started, is that they spent all offseason installing the offense that was to fit Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson was here learning it, but like there's not many quarterbacks that can run an offense like him. So I think that kind of limits that's why I even saw somebody throw Blake Bortles out there. I think he might have retired. I don't know. But because he has the Hackett ties and he was with the Packers. But I don't know if that would excite anybody, or I don't even know if that's a real thing. But that's why you're seeing names like that, or a name like a Colt McCoy, who's just like a veteran who's smart. You can bring in as a backup, like as Dianna said. I don't as much as I think someone like Jameis would be a lot of fun. Gardner Minshew, like guys like that. I don't know if Joe Douglas is going to trade assets for that right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're there yet. I think that they could eventually have that conversation. Yeah, I did not get a sense from talking to a bunch of people there yesterday that trading was going to be something, unless they think that there's really somebody that is the perfect fit here that's worth, because even just talking to people around the league yesterday, everyone kind of has that same attitude about the Jets when they're looking at them, which is they got to win now. Like this team is that good. Yeah. They need to figure this out. So we'll see if the pressure gets put on them for them to maybe say, all right, we got to do it. If we're already all in, so let's just keep in. So we'll see how it shakes out here after Dallas.
One thing that could help Zach for sure, I think, is having Aaron Rodgers around.
Yeah.
Even if we saw in the preseason talking to him during plays, but no, not that, but just having him in the room and around and to talk through things. Dianna, do you think that once he's through surgery and all of that, does he find his way back to New Jersey to be around this team this season, knowing that he's just rehabbing?
Yeah, they obviously want him. That is very clear that they want him because they know how useful he is. I mean, all season we've been saying, or off season and training camp, the one thing that anyone that's watched Hard Knocks, anyone that's observed practice can see that his role as the hybrid head coach and quarterback has been tremendous. And the version of Zach Wilson with Aaron Rodgers is significantly better. So I would think that he is going to continue to communicate with his quarterback room. Yep. He has shared how much he loves them. And I could see, the Jets seem to feel that this is going to be a longer road with Aaron Rodgers than maybe what some people believe, that he's going to be part of this team this year, next year, and maybe future years. So why would he avoid helping? If anything, he's going to want to play into some of the joy and the happiness that he's been talking about since he's joined the team. Yeah,
I think that's a great point. Like I do think that he'll stay at the very least communicative with like Zack in the QB room and Hackett. I'm curious to see how, like, my gut is that he'll go out to Malibu wherever he gets his surgery and then go out to Malibu, be with him, because he's always talking about being with his people. Saleh said he's getting consultations with his own people right now. So I imagine he'll spend some time out there, kind of figuring out his feelings and emotions and all that stuff. Because he had his Instagram post last night where he said he was completely heartbroken and all that stuff. He said he will rise again, whatever you think that means. But so I think that's one of the more interesting things about the rest of the season, because I do think that would give a big boost to this group. If you want to get somebody in there to make them believe they can still do something, like Aaron Rodgers, more than these coaches can do it. So I'm sure Saleh's probably giving him a space, but I'm sure at some point they'll be like, hey, you want to come back? And Saleh even said, someone asked him if he'd wear a headset, and Saleh was like, I don't know if we have enough headsets, but if he wants one, he can have one, basically, was what he said.
Give him mine.
I think what Saleh probably wanted to say was he could have mine.
Yeah, so I was just saying, I don't call plays, it's fine. He can have it.
All right. We're going to move things along, but Dianna, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Look forward to all your great reporting now that you're a part of the team here at The Athletic.
Cool. Thanks for including me, guys.
All right.
Bye.
All right, great stuff from Dianna. And Zack, I wanted to share the full Instagram from Rodgers here. He said, and most people have already read this, but he said, thank you to every person that has reached out, called, texted, DM'd, connected through a friend, etc. It has meant a ton to me, and I'll try and get back to everybody soon. I'm completely heartbroken and moving through all of the emotions, but deeply touched and humbled by the support and love. Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I begin the healing process today. The night is darkest before the dawn, and I shall rise yet again. Ending it with some classic, what you would expect from Aaron Rodgers. I feel like he never disappoints on that stuff.
Well, that referencing Dark Knight there too, I should say. He's a movie buff, and he's always trying to reference movies. So I had somebody say he was, and this is kind of making fun of him, but in a fun way. Like, he was very like old man with his like emoji usage. I feel like very like dad. He's not a dad, but dad energy with all the emojis he threw in there.
40-year-old energy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One other thing I thought was interesting on a hope front before we move on to news around the Jets this week, and then we'll get into the Cowboys as well. I thought Vaccaro's story, I think it was yesterday in the Post, but he talked about like the past rags to riches stories in the NFL. And if you want a little bit of hope, like guys like Kurt Warner, obviously everybody remembers that, but Mike Livingston with the Chiefs replaced Len Dawson, took them to the Super Bowl. Earl Morrall with the Colts twice filled in for Johnny Unitas and took them deep. And then, of course, right here in New York, Jeff Hostetler leading the Giants to a Super Bowl.
Or Philly, Nick Foles with Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like the end of the season, which made it even more unique, I guess. But yeah, I mean, look, and we won't, stay on this topic. It's hard to talk about almost anything else at the moment. But like, the Jets drafted Zach Wilson second overall. If he was ever going to prove, like, this is his last chance probably to prove that he can be an NFL. Unfortunately, he didn't get the chance to sit back and watch like they had planned. But this is your chance to go and show the league that you can be an NFL quarterback. He hasn't shown enough this offseason to make me believe that that's the case. But this team has nothing they can do but believe in him. And, you saw there's a clip circulating. I think it was from inside the NFL. From the sideline, you had Garrett Wilson going over and giving him some motivational pep talk, Alan Lazard, Nathaniel Hackett. Like, last season we all saw, I reported on it, we talked about it on here, like, guys were not hiding their annoyance with how bad Zach was last year. It wasn't about like who he was, it was just about how he was playing. And Garrett Wilson was one of the most like outwardly emotional guys about it. Elijah Moore demanded a trade. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. I think LaFleur is pretty open about how he didn't really like Zach, which teach their own, I guess. But I think the environment around him is better. He definitely has a better mindset. Like, that's undeniable. Like, if you talk to him, he just seems different. But like, him being happier doesn't change if he can't like read the defense or whatever. So, and I think we talked about this the other day, but like, there was the moment where he like ran backwards quite a bit, and Peyton Manning was like, just so like, what are we doing here kind of thing? Like, like that, like the old Zach Wilson stuff. Like, he can't do that stuff. So on one hand, like, they have the pieces to still win. Last year, they lost Breece Hall, and that was a big reason why things fell apart, because he was kind of like the safety valve for Zach. They could just give him the ball and he can make things happen. He's here. Garrett Wilson is better than last year. Alan Lazard, solid, reliable veteran. Like, the offensive line should be better than it was last year. The pieces are around him. Like, it's on Zach to go make it happen now.
I'm hoping that the presence of Dalvin Cook keeps them from
like if Breece,
wanting to overuse Breece, right? Because now would be the time to like, all right, Breece is the offense, and
give him 25 carries.
It's not fair to him coming off the injury, but Dalvin's there, so hopefully that allows them to continue to I do.
It is funny. I think I wasn't alone in this. From that first game, and we won't. That's old news now at this point. But like I expected I didn't expect Dalvin to go off or anything, but I didn't expect like Breece to look like he had almost fresh legs, even if he kind of slowed down a little bit on his long run. And I expected Dalvin to be like more ready to go, but it seemed like Dalvin is still getting his sea legs a little bit, because he wasn't with the team at all. I guess technically Breece
he was late.
With the team.
Right.
So Breece was trying to stay in football shape, but it's not like Dalvin wasn't. But it just seemed like he didn't have like that much juice when he was running the other day. So I'm curious if, as the season goes along, he'll look a little better, and then you have a nice 50-50 split. I think we are really going to find out how good Garrett Wilson is or not, though, coming up. Because you saw last year, 1,000 yards with what they had last year. He had that amazing catch in the end zone that, I don't know if it was the best throw necessarily, but he made it happen. Like I'm wondering how much is he going to have to just make things happen, or is Zack going to have a better connection with him this year?
Yeah, how much can he elevate Zack? I tell you what, I want to root for Zack, right? I want him to become that underdog story that you can root for. He hasn't always said the right things to make you want to root for him, but it seems like he maybe turned a corner through this whole process as far as that goes as well. So we're going to see. We're going to see how he is week in and week out, talking to the media. If he has a bad game, if he gets snippy with the media,
if Connor Hughes asks him a question, like that kind of stuff.
How he handles that. Yeah. But that'll drive anybody nuts. So that's okay. All right. News and notes, and then we'll get into the Cowboys a little bit. Big awards week for the Jets.
Yeah.
Xavier Gipson, special teams player of the week. Jordan Whitehead, defensive player of the week with the 3 interceptions. Kind of no-brainers, I guess, to a degree. Although this defense probably could have gone some different ways. There was some really intimidating pass rushing going on in week 1, and they ended up
three interceptions is hard to like over. Yep. The funny thing is he had 3 interceptions, but like no other stats, which is
on Monday night too.
Yeah, he had 3 picks, but like no tackles, no pass deflection. It was still a great game, but it was just like funny to me that like it's like when an NBA player gets like 50 points but has like 0 rebounds and 0 assists kind of thing. Like it's just all one stat. Yeah. But I mean, Jordan Whitehead, I think we refer to him as like a question mark all offseason. The coaching staff has been very high on him, and I think he showed it. But Xavier Gipson is like, he probably would have been more of a story this week. He still is, because a lot of people in the locker room, a lot of people are asking about him. I'm working on something on him, and got a fascinating backstory. But he's just like such a likable kid. Everybody in this locker room just loves him. Like I haven't seen that even with like regular rookies, let alone undrafted guys. Like if you ask anybody in the locker room, they all love that kid. The coaching staff loves him. And that was before he had that play. So that's why it went from thinking he was on the bubble to realizing that he was maybe a roster lock the whole time. Aaron Rodgers was talking him up as if he was going to have a role in the offense. He might've played more the other day if they didn't do so much 12 personnel. He had 1 snap on offense and McCole Hardman had 0. So maybe he's ahead of McCole Hardman in the pecking order. But I mean, in terms of returning, he's a star. Like that was an impressive. There was some great blocking on that.
He set those blocks up though.
He did
too. Like if you see, he slows.
You can see him like you can even see him like looking at like finding the holes but yeah, I think Chaz Surratt had the big block that cleared away. But he also like at the end, like it looked like it was done, and then he ran. The Jets, I think it was on Instagram. Maybe they did it on Twitter too. They posted a bunch of videos of all the different angles, like from the crowd, from here, from up, and it was just like fascinating seeing like. First, like how he like maneuvered around the blocks, and then like on the sideline, like the progression of first, like the beginning of the play. Remember, he was like cutting one way, went the other way, and so everybody's kind of like just watching, and then they're getting more excited as he's getting a big gain, and then at the end where it looked like he's about to get tackled, then he cuts the end zone. Then Saleh like runs onto the field. The team runs on the field and tackles him, and it was a cool moment. And the Jets, they might have really found something there. To Joe Douglas' credit, that's 2 years in a row. They've found at least one undrafted rookie. I know it's one game, but at least one undrafted rookie that has starter quality potential. And the other was Tony Adams, who I don't think I noticed him as much. I don't think he had a bad game by any stretch, though. And honestly, his presence might have helped Jordan Whitehead a little bit too. But yeah, they deserve a lot of credit for finding Xavier Gipson. I'm gonna have more about how they did in a couple of days, but yeah, him getting that award is pretty cool for a kid from Stephen F. Austin and FCS school. Like it's pretty rare that a rookie from an FCS school has a Player of the Week award in week 1. Like I wonder how many times in NFL history that's even happened. So the Jets have something there. That's they've added talent to a team that are already talented last year. So
you mentioned Hardman and Saleh talked about. We talked about it on Tuesday. They didn't play, but Saleh talked about it on Wednesday, saying he was in the plans originally. When Rodgers went down, the game plan changed and he kind of got taken out of the plans. But is that telling of the future, especially with what you just said about Gipson, or do you think Hardman, coming up this weekend has a much bigger role?
I think it's going to be matchup based, which is kind of what Saleh said, because the reason why he wasn't out there is because they went really, really conservative, which meant more CJ Uzomah, Tyler Conklin, and or Rucker. They did like a decent amount of 13 personnel, which is 3 tight ends on the field at once. And I thought when that's the case, you're going to run the ball. Like nobody in the Breeze was still able to get yards on those. And by the way, Rucker is a guy I tweeted about this yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
He had a phenomenal game run blocking, and I wonder if pretty soon he's going to wind up having to play more than even CJ because he brings more of the pass catcher, I think. But but yeah, to circle back to so if they're going more 12 personnel, that means Allen Lazard needs to be on the field, and you need Garrett on the field pretty much as possible because he's Garrett, because Allen Lazard's the best run blocker, or you have Randall Cobb out there. And that doesn't really leave much room for Hardman, but he's so fast and you can use him as a gadget player. Like, I think you need to try and manufacture some plays for him. By the end of camp, it was pretty clear he was lower in the pecking order than I expected. And if they value Gibson even more than him, then I'm not even sure what his role is necessarily outside of kick returner. But that is something I'm going to be keeping my eye on, because while I didn't expect him to have a big role, I did not expect him to get 0 snaps on offense. So this week it's going to be interesting because they're going to have extra blockers there to help with this. We're going to get into the preview, but ridiculous pass rush that the Cowboys have. So I don't know how much of a role he's going to play this week either.
Let's transition to this week and the Cowboys and the pass rush that you just mentioned. The Jets trying to go 2-0 for the first time since Fitzmagic 2015. If they can beat a team that beat the Giants 40-0. I do think the score is a little misleading in that when you look at the Cowboys offensively, nothing really stands out.
Yeah, Dak had like 100-something yards, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Dak had 143 yards. He didn't throw it that much because he didn't need to, because they had the big lead early. He was 13 of 24. But the defense looked every bit as good as we thought they might be. They pressured Daniel Jones on 23 of 37 dropbacks.
Wow.
7 sacks. Jones had 104 yards, 2 picks, and a 32.4 rating.
It was bad. Yeah.
And if you think of the Giants O-line and the Jets O-line, you'd probably give the edge to the Giants. And it's just that's step one,
honestly,
right? Like,
I don't know. They're not both. I would say you have questions about both, but I think the Giants have a better, like, their left tackle is a star, but I think the rest of their groups has some question marks.
Yeah. So BetMGM right now has Micah Parsons as the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year, plus 400. Myles Garrett second at plus 600. That's where it all starts, right, Zach?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Micah Parsons, and the thing that makes him so scary beyond being like a freak athlete is that they can line him up almost anywhere. You can play him both sides of the edge, coming off as an outside linebacker. I think he's even shuffled inside sometimes. They have DeMarcus
I think
Lawrence.
His sack against the Giants came up the middle, actually.
Yeah, there you go. And they have DeMarcus Lawrence on the other side. So, like, if you're doubling Parsons, you're pulling somebody away from, like, the other side. And so it's going to be a really good test for Mekhi, who I think for the most part held up pretty well the other day, and Dwayne Brown, who, beyond the sack he gave up, I think there were some bumps. I think the O-line, like, I think it corrected itself a little bit as the game went on, at least in terms of the run blocking, which I thought was really good. But yeah, I mean, stopping Parsons, stopping Lawrence, their whole D-line, like, and Cowboys have a great defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, who really knows how to scheme it up, and he, making life difficult for Zach Wilson. So I don't know. They're gonna have a hard time with that defense, and if they're gonna win this game, it's gonna have to be a low scoring one. Like, I just don't. Even if it was Aaron Rodgers in there, I'd be worried. So, I think this Cowboys team is better than people realized. Honestly, like, maybe they're not 40-0 over a playoff team from last year, good, but I think they're a Super Bowl contender. So, and it's in Dallas, and the Jets are coming off this very emotional week, so short week also, which doesn't help matters at all. Which is why a big reason why, and we didn't really necessarily mention this, a big reason why they're not even signing one right now is because it's a short week. And so bringing maybe you could bring him in now to plan for next week, but they felt like it seems like we're going to get to the end of the week without a new quarterback joining them, I think. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just thought of this, I'm rambling now, but like who their emergency quarterback is going to be, because they only have 2 on the roster. So we were talking about in the media room yesterday, I think Nick Bodden used to play quarterback in college, and they moved him to fullback. He's apparently like bulked up to a degree that I don't know how he could throw it anymore. So my guess would be either him or they go with like Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook as like wildcat quarterbacks kind of thing.
Well, that's not what you need for your guy coming off the big injury. I think I also saw somewhere that Randall Cobb played some quarterback in college.
There you go. Cobb would make sense, I guess, because he's smart. He's very smart too. So, and if anybody knows what Rodgers is thinking, it's him. So maybe you can replicate that.
Yeah, that's true. If it gets to that point, we have bigger issues, I think. And all will be
over.
So. So the Giants double team Parsons a lot too, and 4 of their 7 sacks came on plays when he was doubled. So, like,
there you go.
Even when he's not doing it, he's doing it for other people as well. you're paying so much attention to him that it's freeing up other people.
Well, to be honest, sorry to cut you off, but like that's why I think you might see some cut blocks this week, because like if you can't block him, then cutting him would at least prevent him from getting there for 3 seconds. So
yeah, and get the ball out quick and have some ideas of getting Garrett the ball quickly in some way. Like if it's,
yes, they took way too long to do that the other day. Yeah.
Yep. All right. The good news for the Jets, while they may not score many points, is they're probably not going to give up many. I mentioned the Cowboys. Pollard had 14 carries for 70 yards, a couple touchdowns. Obviously, CD Lamb is a star. And one thing that's tricky, I think, about CD Lamb is he lines up in the slot, right? So it's not going to be Sauce or DJ Reed on him most of the time. It's going to be Michael Carter. Yeah. So while they'll be able to shut down the other guys, like CD Lamb could be a problem.
Yeah, he's a talented player. He's not like the big physical freak that like some of the other star receivers they go against are, but he's just a really solid, and he's a great athlete. And so Michael Carter II is going to be an X factor in this game. I'm sure they'll bring help, and I'm sure there might be instances where Sauce or DJ Reed do line up across from him. Brandon Cooks is their other big receiver. He's not big, but he's their other like talented receiver. He's very fast. He's a threat. But yeah, this is going to be a big game for Michael Carter II, for Tony Adams, for Jordan Whitehead, like guys in the middle of the field who are going to have to help out there. I don't think the Cowboys tight ends aren't really a threat, and the Jets have struggled against tight ends, but slot receiver is, they have been hyping up Michael Carter II all offseason, and this is going to be a big game for him. They did play a 3 safety look a decent amount the other day, to the point where Jamie Sherwood only played like 4 snaps, and I think Adrian Amos played 10. So I imagine they'll probably do that again, because that way Amos can act as like a pseudo linebacker safety and maybe offer some help with CeeDee Lamb. So I think the Jets defense can win this battle. The Cowboys offense is talented, though maybe not as scary as like some other offenses they'll face. Tony Pollard, I think, is very, very good and dangerous. So the Jets D-line, as you mentioned how good the Jets defense is. Like that D-line was utterly dominant. I tweeted some stats. I don't have them in front of me.
I do. Hold on.
Oh, you got it right here. If you want to run through that, because it was pretty ridiculous.
John Franklin Myers, 8 pressures, a sack, a QB hit. Quinnen Williams, 5 pressures, a QB hit. Quentin Jefferson, 4 pressures, 2 sacks, and a QB hit. Bryce Huff, 4 pressures and a QB hit. Jermaine Johnson, 3 pressures, a sack, and a QB hit. Al Woods, a pressure and a sack. And Michael Clemens, the forced fumble on Allen. I mean, that everybody got into the
everybody. And that's, Will McDonald played. I didn't really notice him yet. It was his first game though. But Carl Lawson didn't play, as we mentioned, because they were resting him. It sounds like he's going to play this week. So you're bringing another talented guy in there. I imagine Will McDonald's snaps will go down. I'm curious how much Jermaine Johnson will play, because I thought he played very, very well. And if it'll be Jermaine or Carl Lawson starting, I would start Jermaine personally at this point. But, I think Carl and Jermaine will wind up playing a lot of the defensive end snaps, and you slide JFM over. But also Quentin Jefferson looked very, very good. So I think you want him in there on passing down. Like they just have so much. It's like an embarrassment of riches. It's crazy. And so that'll make life.
None of them can play quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they can. I don't know. Will McDonald's a pretty impressive athlete. So I think they'll be the biggest help for Michael Carter II. And that's why it'll be key for him, like just to, even if CeeDee Lamb's getting a lot of catches, as long as they're short and not for big gains, I think you can live on that. And so, yeah, the reason why you believe in this Jets defense starts at the defensive line 100% of the time. They just keep coming at you. That was like a whole thing. And they didn't even have a lead this last game. The whole idea when they built this was like, we're going to be having a lot of leads with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, so we're going to be rushing the passer quite a bit. They didn't really have a lead very long in that Bills game, and it still worked out. So if they can somehow get in front of the Cowboys, however that is, whether that's a pick six or, Breece Hall running for 90 yards, whatever it is, like if they can jump ahead in some way, like this defense is built to hold a lead. So that'll be a fascinating part of this game.
Ready to do picks?
Yeah. Do you want to put the link in the chat for everybody so they can still sign up? Because they can still sign up, right? Yeah. So we're doing instead of having a guest instead of having a guest every week this year, Tim thought it'd be cool if we have this pool online where you pick every game, and at the end of the year we'll figure out some way of like giving a prize or something to whoever has the most But since I'm the winner from last year, I expect to win again. So, although I did picks for the Athletic last week. I don't think I did very well. I didn't see my record, so I'm not optimistic. But
all right. I'm going to get the link in. Hold on. The problem is that anybody who's had 2-factor authentication having issues here.
Struggles. There are some.
I'm going to bring up
some. I was just say there are some interesting games this week, though. I even think the Vikings, who don't look very good against the Eagles, is interesting because the Eagles are on a short week and they're very banged up. James Bradbury's out. I believe somebody else, one of the linebackers, Nakobe Dean's out for a while. So that game tonight, I think, is going to be actually interesting. Some people who are listening to this the game might have already happened, so that might sound dumb. I think Packers-Falcons might be sneakily good. Ravens-Bengals will be a good one. Chargers-Titans, I think, will be close. The Rams aren't going to keep this up. Dolphins-Patriots.
My picks.
And Browns-Steelers. So there's a bunch of there's 2 Monday night games this week. I hate when they do that.
Yep. So here's the pool. Sorry for the technical difficulties. The link's in the chat now. We have a good amount of people already signed up. So thanks for everybody who's already signed up. But here's my picks for week 1. Zach, I don't know if you just picked a few games that you're focused on, but who you're going with. I got the Eagles, Packers, Bills, Bengals. I think the Bengals bounce back. That's kind of what, if I had to put a lock in these games, I think maybe the Bengals -3.5. Baltimore obviously lost Dobbins last week. Bengals at home took it on the chin against the Browns last week, 3.5. I think they do that. Seattle on the road, Chargers, then Bucks. I'll take the Chiefs over the Jags. The Texans at home versus the Colts. That's the bad game. The Rams at home against the Niners. The Giants traveling to Arizona. I think they bounce back after that awful performance. I got the Cowboys -9.5. Why did I take? I'm going to change that one before the picks. That one's getting switched. I think I picked that game and didn't notice the line. I feel like the Jets don't.
I pulled mine up, so I'll run through my picks and you're done.
Okay. Denver over Washington, Patriots over the Dolphins, Panthers over the Saints, and Browns on Monday night at the Steelers, with hopefully Michael Dunn getting lots of plays.
Yes. First I'll pick we used to pick 3 games, right? So I'll pick 3 right now that I like. I picked the Falcons +1.5. I don't think the Packers were as good as they were against the Bears, and I think the Falcons have some interesting talent. I picked the Seahawks +4.5 against the Lions. Again, I don't think the Seahawks were as bad as they looked in week 1, and the Lions coming off the high of the Chiefs, maybe they fall back a little bit. And let's see another one I like. Let's see. I'll say Saints -3.5 against the Panthers. I think the Saints are sneakily very good. They played a Titans team that I think is going to be pretty good, so it wasn't very high scoring. I don't think the Panthers are very good, so 3.5. I think they'll win by more than that. So those would be the 3. In terms of some upsets that I picked, let's see what other ones I had. I had the Vikings +6.5 for the reasons I mentioned earlier with injuries. I had, let's see here, Washington +3.5 against the Broncos. I think the Broncos stink. And that's it. Yeah, the other ones are I have all the favorites. So there you go. Hope you guys all right. So your picks in, but
there's our picks presented by BetMGM. Get your picks in, and like you said, as the season goes on, like somebody goes perfect one week, we'll get you on the show if you want to come on and talk about it. As the standings start to break down, maybe we'll have leaders come on here and there. Yeah. So we still want to get everybody involved and have people on the show from time to time. But we like to mix things up and make it new every week.
Marissa's participating. Yeah.
Connor is participating as well.
Did you send it to Connor?
Yep. And he said he would do it. So yeah, so it should be a lot of fun.
There we go. Can't wait to win again. What should we do? I didn't give you my pick for, probably because I haven't thought about it, the pick for the Jets Cowboys game.
Well, it's not, you can just say who you're taking first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, in terms of score, because I feel like we do that. So I'd say Cowboys by 10 is what I'll say.
So you're taking Cowboys.
Yeah, I had the Cowboys line on that one.
All right.
I think the Jets are going to be competitive, but I think the Cowboys will pull away.
I switched it. I'm taking the Jets. I'm going to say like I think the Cowboys win. I think like 17-10. Cowboys win.
There you go.
Terribly low scoring game. If you love defense, tune in for a late game on Sunday too.
What I do love is barbecue in Dallas. There's this place called Pecan Lodge that I'm excited to go to on Saturday. So there you go.
Nice. There you go. Oh, that's right. First road trip. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, safe travels to you, Zack. We will be back next week with a full recap of whatever goes down in Dallas. It's either another incredible defensive performance and a 2-0 start, or all right, 1-1. What do we do from here? Either way, we'll be back with you on the Can't Wait podcast.